And welcome to In Between Sets podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin.
And I'm Abigail.
And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Kristen. She is the most beautiful presence you could ever have in your life. She is someone that has walked through very many different seasons with me as not only a therapist, but also as a friend for me. And I thought it would be a great person to bring onto our podcast and maybe therapize all of our listeners.
Therapize.
So, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Kristen Brickl, and I'm based in Boulder, Colorado, and I have a private practice. I'm an intuitive licensed professional counselor, so it's kind of this rare combination. But I love it. It makes sessions and work with the women I get to sit with really potent. My focus is serving women in their 30s to 70s, and specifically over functioning women, women who identify and know that they exactly have high standards and they function at an extremely high level and generally often find themselves in manage and maintain cycles and sort of disconnected from creating lives they love. And a lot of the women I work with also struggle with receiving well. And I love that we're going to be talking about that today a little bit, amongst other things.
Yeah,
So,
you guys, Kristen is just like this ball of like light, and she has this really, I think, amazing gift of being able to kind of not just, obviously when you're talking to someone who is a counselor, you want them to listen and you want them to like, okay, give me answers, give me, and Kristen just is able to kind of, I think she has this beautiful gift of like seeing past everything that like you can't even really see. Like she can like kind of look within you and go, okay, I hear this is happening, but like I'm just getting something else. And she would do that. I'd be like, oh my God, how did you know? You're right, actually. Like, so she just has this beautiful gift. And yeah, today's episode, I was talking to Abby. I was like, dude, I think getting Kristen to talk to women about, obviously this episode is dropping on Galentine's Day in February 13th. But like we look at self-care and self-love, and I think what's pushed to us a lot is like go get a massage, go get your nails done, like, and especially like Abigail can probably talk about this as a new mom, like what does self-love and self-care look like now in this journey, and what does it look like for, I mean, being 30 to 70 is a broad range, and can like midlife is a broad range of what that can look like. And I was like, no better person to talk about this and what it actually means to like self-love and self-care than Kristen. Abigail, did you kind of have any maybe first questions for her?
Yeah, well, first I was going to say, one, I love the specialty because, well, one, both of us are that type of person. And I know a lot of the people that listen are kind of like overachievers, go-getters, don't know how to slow down. So it's like the perfect person to have on right now. And then two, with like right now with like the weather and all of that, I think there's a lot of like seasonal depression and things like that. So I just feel like it's the perfect time. So I'm really excited that we were able to get you on like the time that we were. So thank you for being here. And I kind of wanted to start with, and this is kind of selfish, but it was because it's on my mind. My mom was over yesterday and we were talking about it. Can you kind of start us off with just like defining what self-love is and what it's not, and maybe like the misconceptions that people have when we talk about, because I kind of think it's a little bit of a buzzword right now, but kind of what it is and what it isn't, especially when you talk to people like us.
yeah, so I love this question. And I really believe one of the most important relationships we have is the one we have with ourselves. Other relationships over our lifetime will come and go, but we have to live with ourselves. Every one of us has to learn how to live with ourselves, right? And given your guys' line of work, you also know that if we're not able to take care of our body, we literally have no place to live. So I think this idea of self-love and self-care has been like appropriated in terms of industries that generate revenue, like the beauty industry and, self-care industry and personal growth and development. And what I find with a lot of the women I work with, I'm like, talk to me about how you receive. Talk to me about the last time you really dropped in and felt like you were relaxing and connected to yourself. And I can't tell you how many times women are like, well, I went to, a boxing class, or I went on a hike, or I went out and, did something. They were active in their doing. And I'm like, wait, hold up. That's great. But talk to me about your human being,
Yeah.
right? Like, what about the being part of you? And I think that when we talk about self love, we have to come alongside of our being, beyond just the doing parts, right? And so I also think we can't talk about self love and self care without identifying compassion fatigue, burnout, these themes of overfunctioning, because all of those are indications of the absence of receiving. And
Over here, like, yeah.
right?
I know.
Does
I'm
that
like,
make
that's
sense?
exactly how I
Yeah.
would have answered it. Oh yeah, I did this and that and this. And Caitlin and I joke all the time of like, oh, like we need to just sit. It's okay to just sit. You don't always have to be doing something.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's why I joined Kristen, or not joined. I've been with Kristen for I think 4 years now, and obviously it's in and out of times. But like this last time, I sat with her for 3 sessions because I was like, I can't just sit still and like feel actual peace. Like, one, I feel guilty if I do. Two, I don't feel like I'm quote unquote recovering. Like, it doesn't feel like actual recovery or rest to me. It feels like I'm should be doing something. I should be doing something productive, or I should be like, it just, there could be a laundry list of things to do or think
Right.
about or talk to clients, whatever, get clients. And if I sit, it was just like, well, then it just sat heavy on me. So I couldn't just feel and just like Kristen saying, just be. And so
Mm-hmm.
we kind of walked through that the last 3 sessions because I got, and I've been open with this with our listeners, but like I've been really kind of going through like a depression a little bit because like I had finished bodybuilding and then just went and just like everything just stopped. And people were like, I mean, even my dad was like, well, you need to be doing something. Cause I was like, I don't feel like I have a purpose. I don't feel like, like if I'm not doing something that's grand or that is like a purpose attached to someone else or something else, then I have no purpose. And that just wasn't sitting right with me because Abigail was like, I think Abigail was the only one that was saying, like, you don't have to be doing anything. Like, you don't have to train for a marathon. You don't have to train for a body. Like, you don't have to be going to Nicaragua to do like mission work. Like, you need to figure out what your purpose is just sitting and like
Mm-hmm.
as you are, being as you are. And like Kristen kind of walked through that with me. And I think, yeah, what you said is just like, what about the human being, not the human doing?
Yeah. And I think
Yeah. And it's an
too,
uncomfortable place. Yeah. Go ahead.
no, sorry, there's like
Go
a
ahead,
slight
Abigail.
lag. So if I interrupt, that's sorry. I was just going to say sometimes I'll look at like my planner and there's like an open hour or 2 hours and my mind immediately goes to like, oh, that's time to be filled. Like that's time to do something versus like it's okay that there's a blank hour to just sit with myself or go for just to do nothing. It doesn't have to be filled with something.
Yeah. And what I want to say about that is I'm a single mom, almost full time single mom of two middle schoolers. I run my business. And then all of the mental load that we as women carry, right? In terms of running businesses, raising children, families, working, all of it. Um, Plus the Target runs and Costco and cleaning the house. And I mean, the to-do list is endless. And I can get into this loop of everything out here has to be managed and feel like it's okay and settled. And then I'll put myself on that list of to do or tending to myself. I've really battled that constantly. I think because I'm a firstborn, I'm a high achieving, overachieving woman like you guys, like your listeners. And so it's easy to relegate myself lower in terms of my needs of self-care and self-love, because I'm like, I'm good. I just, I can just keep going. I mean, I'm a badass. I'm so strong. I'm fierce. I got this, until compassion fatigue hits and I like recognize, oh my gosh, I care but don't care. That's not a good place to be, right? Or feeling burned out. And sometimes there's physical symptoms of that, mental and emotional weight of that. I've definitely struggled with all of those things. And so for high functioning and over functioning women, I also love to talk about self-love and self-care happening in micro moments, right? Like, because in my mind, I'll be like, no, I need like 30 minutes to sit down and journal and meditate and pray and get into that space. And the reality is, of all of our lives are very busy. Sometimes that's just not possible. So, in terms of like the women I work with, there's three things that I require, or gently but persistently ask them to be practicing before we even work together, because I think these three things keep us in a healthy, sustainable place of self-love. And they are to have some kind of prayer, meditation, centering, spiritual practice where you do sit down every day and get in touch with God, with the creator, with source, however you define that. Because what I have found as a single mom is I can very quickly feel not supported. And then I can get hard on myself, or I feel like I'm all alone in my doing. And there's something about drawing the energy of the light of the creator down into my being every day to know, like, right, I'm not alone. That is just, it brings tears to my eyes. Like, it's so potent. Like, that is the energy that has gotten me through since my divorce over the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
The other piece I speak with women about in terms of self-love and self-care is we do have to move our bodies every single day. Because when we move our bodies, we move our energy. When we move our energy, we're literally changing the quality of our lives. So even if it's a walk, walking the dog, walking yourself, going to the gym, yoga, Pilates, boxing, I don't care what it is, but we've got to move our bodies every day. And then the third piece is just a little sip in of nature medicine, right? We go outside, no matter the weather. And I often will ask clients to just, can you look up? Can you look up at the sky and remember where you are and that you're a part of the all, the I am? And everything is accomplished in nature. Nothing is ever rushed. And so those three pieces I find truly solve most of our problems, right? And they each evoke a sense of self-care, self-love, nourishment, energy. So
Yeah.
micro moments or the bigger, I'm going on a retreat,
Yeah.
but it's all of
I
that.
I love that because I tell my clients a lot of them are moms or have like very high demanding jobs where they
Mhm.
like as soon as they wake up they're getting their phone, answering an email or whatever. And our cortisol is at the highest of, when we wake up anyway, but then we're
Mhm.
just immediately sending our body into like the fight or flight or freeze something like, and
Right.
so we're making it higher like, and I want a lot of my women, or I ask a lot of my women to like, it's very funny. I ask them to kind of, in a way, do a little of the same because I'm like,
Mhm.
you have to have some time for yourself in the morning because everyone wants a piece of you immediately, especially as women. Like, as we are either like Abigail is immediately tending to Scarlett, I'm
Yes.
immediately checking my phone for client notifications, DMs from potential clients, something. There's always, as women, something like people needing something from us, and like
Right.
we tend to them. And I'm like, take some time for yourself in the morning so that way like you can connect with God or whoever, like whatever it is that you really get, you like you said, your source from, before everything else is just pulling at you, before everything else gets your attention and your like care. Make sure that you get it first. And sometimes that looks like a
Mhm.
workout for them in the morning or journaling or getting in the word or whatever, but like I think that's so 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 important to not rush that
And I
part,
love too the emphasis on the micro moments, because especially since becoming a mom, that's like the biggest thing that I've noticed. And Caitlin and I talk a lot about like the ceiling and the floor. Sometimes you have 4 hours to do
Mm.
everything you want, and sometimes you have 4 minutes. And I have noticed, and it wasn't even intentional, those three things that you've said, but like my micro moments are the walk that we do in the morning when Scarlett's like about to go on her first nap, where I'm like by my quote unquote by myself, but she's asleep outside, silent, walking, and like typically that's when I like pray or do whatever, and it's kind of hits all three of those, and it's just this small window of time that I have, and it's such a game changer. And it kind of made me realize the whole like you don't need 4 hours, you don't even need an hour, you just need a moment,
Right.
just one moment to yourself, and it changes the whole day. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, it sets the tone. It sets the tone for your day, like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the most loving things we can do, I talk to women about this all the time. I'm like, you picked out your outfit today, didn't you? Yeah, yeah, I did. Great. Um, Before we pick up our phones, before we ideally like tend to the kids, before we deal with client emails, can you also put on the energy of that which you desire for the day, just like you put on your clothes? So powerful, so loving, right? Anybody who's ever been in a loving romantic relationship or loves their family, it feels good to love and give love to the people we love, right?
Yeah.
Loving yourself should not feel like a chore. Loving yourself should be with the same devotion you love your spouse, your partner, your family members, your children. It's no different. And so if it starts feeling like a chore, you know you're in the red zone. It's not a good place to be, right? And so the power of choosing to put on the energy in the morning of that which you desire, even if it's just a thought, right? Like there are some mornings I wake up and I don't get to do my 20 minutes of prayer and meditation because the kids are already awake or whatever the case may be. And so I can still wake up. One of my favorite practices I give women is just to hand on heart, hand on belly before you even get out of bed. It's like, ah, good morning, Kristen. I love you. Because you might have a day where nobody's there to tell you that today. Nobody's there to give you a hug. There is nobody, or the day gets going and you're in the doing. So the power of just pause, right? Oh my gosh, good morning, Kristen. I love you. It's like, oh yeah, I do, girl. Yeah, yeah, I do love you, girl. Yeah, and like it puts you in an energy that feels like, right. I want to be aligned with that today. So those are micro moments. Another micro moment that I often will give women is I love the power of words. Words have energy and frequency. So a mantra, a phrase that I'll just keep going all day, especially on days where I feel flooded and like I'm carrying the weight of the world and all the doing just leaves me anxious and sort of breathless. One of the phrases I love is, right, I have complete certainty in the light of the Creator today. I have complete certainty in the light of the Creator, right? That I'm going to give to the Creator what I cannot carry today. I think that is one of the most loving things I can do, right, for myself in that day is constantly checking in with my energy, with my mindset. These are literally the two things we have any control over in life. And when we're tending to those, I think it's one of the most loving things we can do for ourselves and the people in our lives that we love and our clients and everybody that matters.
You know what's
What would you
funny?
tell? Oh, go ahead, Abigail.
The dang lag. No, I was gonna say what's funny is I've noticed recently I Scarlett loves the mirror right now, so we like sit in front of the mirror and she, stares at herself. And it's so natural that I'll look at her and like basically talk for her of like, you're so pretty, you're so smart, you're so strong, and you do it, and it came so natural. Like, and then I was thinking about it as you were talking of like, why does it come so natural for me to do that with her? Because I want her to know those things like so bad. But like, when was the last time I did that to myself? And it's just the
Mm.
strangest thing because I didn't even think twice. It just came so natural because I just wanted her to know that so deeply. And then it's like, okay, but why do I not do that? When was the last time I ever like looked in the mirror and said that to myself? Which anyway, so I just, you're right, with words are so powerful. And I was like, huh, kind of like a little epiphany while you were talking.
I love that. And what I want to say is that one of the soul work, homework practices I give women is watch how you receive, watch your opportunities for receiving, right? It's in the receiving that actually amplifies our capacity to give in the world to our clients, to our family, right? To whatever is most important to us. And most of the women I work with truly struggle in receiving. It's not a comfortable place to be, like Caitlin was saying. It requires us to slow down. And for a lot of us, that gets to be a cringy, glitchy place where it's like, ooh, I'm better at giving. I don't want to receive. So watch how you receive, whether
Yeah.
that is what are you taking in, right? In terms of on your phone, food, people's energy, the types of clients, family drama, like what are you actually ingesting in terms of what you're allowing yourself to receive? Where do you block or cut off from receiving? Those are all cues in terms of the degree to which you have self-love and self-care and reverence for your being.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, my question earlier, Kristen and Abigail, dude, that's so funny. And that was like when you were saying that, I was like, oh my God, that's a huge revelation.
Yeah.
Because
It
I
is.
when I tell my clients to like, you know, it's almost kind of the same thing, but I saw it, someone talked about it on Instagram or TikTok or something, and they were like, if you could be in the body of a person you love for a day, what would you do with like
Mhm.
for them, with them, whatever. And like, then why would you not do that like for yourself? And that is kind of in the same, realm of what you were speaking, like what you were speaking on is obviously taking care of yourself. But what would you tell someone? Because like all of this, what would you tell someone that maybe had resistance to what you were saying? Like she was like, I hear you, but like I don't have the time to do that because like I feel like some women want to do that, but then they have like this resistance in them to like, and I don't even want to say excuses, but they have this like rhythm that they're used to, and it's almost like they're used to drowning. Like they're
Yes.
used to that, and that feels safer to them than to like talk talk good over themselves.
All good.
Speak like love over themselves. I don't speak very good. But like, they have kind of this resistance to what you're telling them to do. What would you say?
Well, one, my style is to be pretty direct and totally loving. And so I
Yeah,
would
no,
call her out. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like I do believe people argue for their limitations, and they are yours, right? Like when people truly argue to stay stuck where they are and defend, and I've done this myself. Like I just don't have time, and this is unrealistic, and I'm going to get more of that heightened state of stress and disconnection from myself when I have that mindset. One of the things I talk with clients about is we have to respond greater than the emotions that we have in a moment. It's easy to feel stress or feel anxiousness and then have our actions match that energy emotionally that's happening inside of us. And so part of what I work with women on is how do you separate your personhood from your behavior? How do you separate I am an anxious person versus sometimes I have anxiety or I feel anxiety moving through me, right? Because there has to be a little bit of a disconnect where I start forming a different identity. So, Caitlin, your question, I think, is really about I get curious about what's your identity right now? What's the story attached to the identity? What's the strategy you're using to support that current identity? Because you're coming to see me because something's not working and you're looking to shift your identity to a more balanced woman, a woman that can receive well, a woman that is still highly productive, but also soft and strong, right? She's fierce in the world, but she also feels joyful in her pleasure and creativity. So that's where I go in terms of when a woman presents to me with that.
I I love that you said that because I do I'm asking because I really have a very specific client in mind right now who just is so resistant to the change, but she wants the change so badly. Like she, obviously came to me because she wants things to change. Like she can't keep sitting in the same cycle. But like the way that she speaks to herself is not great. She gets really overwhelmed and anxious. She has 4 kids and a husband, and he's very helpful. Like, but it's just she's caught in this like loop of the identity shift that's like she's almost fighting it, but she also wants it at the same time. And I see that
Mhm.
often with some of my clients, really, and I'm sure Abigail can attest to this with some of the people that she's worked with. Like when a woman wants to lose 15 to 20 pounds, maybe more, there has to be an identity shift. We have to kind of take away from what you were doing that got you to this place to implement new habits and new beliefs about yourself so that you can be this person that you're wanting to become. And anytime a client comes to me, we start off kind of maybe in the second month, not maybe the first month, like what what version of you are you trying to be? Like what does your ideal best self look like? What are her habits? I ask them, how do you dress? Like what do you think about
Mhm.
yourself? Show up in the world. And that's kind of a heavy thing for someone who's like, I don't even think I've ever thought about that. Like, so we kind of implement it. But like, what would you know, say we've talked about this ideal person that they want to become. What do you
Yes.
feel like are a lot of beliefs that women struggle with the most to be able to get there? Or like the ways in which they don't show themselves self love, like boundaries and that kind of
Mm.
thing?
Yeah, one of the questions I ask is I want you to imagine being on the receiving end of the way you're loving yourself. Right? Like, could you imagine loving somebody else the way you're showing up loving yourself right now? And that usually stops women dead in their tracks because they recognize they're giving all their love and attention and energy to their business, to their spouse, to their children. And the reality is, internally, they're carrying a lot of guilt or shame or imposter syndrome or judgment and inner critic. And it's like, now imagine translating all of that energy to your child or to your spouse or to your clients or to whatever. And that's part of the wake up call, right? I think a lot of us, myself included, our deepest fear as humans is that we're not enough and therefore not lovable. I think across the board, that as a core place of wounding for most of us is true. And then from there is the wellspring of all kinds of other judgment and criticism. Thoughts on repeat form our beliefs, and the quality of our beliefs literally forms the quality of our life. So, to answer your question, one of the things I'll do with women is kind of a beliefs inventory, right? Of like, what do you believe to be true? And how do you know that to be true? And who would you become if you did not have that belief anymore? If you did not have that story, whether it's about yourself or somebody else, who do you get to become without that? Because then we're opening the door to receiving and truly returning back to a place of love and loving kindness for ourselves.
Yeah. And
What
I mean, it
I
always comes back to, go ahead, Abigail.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say what is kind of going off of what you and Caitlin said. What is super interesting is like I feel like I do talk to a lot of women who I feel as if it's wanting they need validation in staying the same. Like they really want to change, but they have all of these. So you give them all the tools, and they're like, "But I can't because X, Y, and Z." And so sometimes you have to almost call that out of like, I'm not going to validate that. You came to me because you don't want to be this way. So what's like holding you back from not being that way? And you said something about who do you get to become, which I like a lot better because in
Yes.
like when I've talked to people like that, I've said more of like, now who do you have the responsibility to become, or who do you have to become? Because now it puts a little bit more pressure on yourself. But I like that perspective of like it is an identity shift, even if it's just I'm an anxious person, and switching that to like sometimes I struggle with anxiety. Okay, well now you have the responsibility to not sit in
Yeah.
like, and use that as an excuse every time you want to do something. But I just really like that, like, no, you get to be somebody who is no longer anxious about going to the restaurant or whatever the case may be. Like, it's just I really like that identity shift there. So that's cool, because I hear that a lot, and I feel like that is, even myself, when I talk to people, you're seeking change, but then you're so resistant to it, and it's very interesting as to like why that is.
You know, research was done in terms of stages of change. I find this so fascinating that people, and you guys know this from your business, right? That, you know, people are in a pre-contemplative stage and then they move into contemplation. I really want to lose that 15 pounds. From contemplation, they move into motivation. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the change. From motivation, they move into action, right? And they have a plan. And then almost every time at some point, there's a relapse, there's a slipping back into, I fell off the wagon, I fell off my plan, my program. They found that people either go back to contemplation, which is an inactive state, it's just where we stay in our head, or they move back immediately into motivation and action. There was one thing they found that was the difference between people that hovered back in contemplation and said, "Ah, forget it. You know what? It's too hard. This is just overwhelming. I can't do it. Now's not the time." And those that were like, "You know what? I messed up. It's okay. I'm going to keep going." The one thing they found, it was self-love.
Huh.
That was the one piece that was the differentiating factor of those that immediately returned to action. It's because they knew they were worth it. Like, it gives me
I love
chills every
that.
time I think about that, because they
I know, I was
knew
about
they
to
were
say, I
worth
just
it
got
and they
chills.
loved themselves enough, right? So
That's funny.
powerful. And so for your clients, I would say to you both that are struggling and they go back to contemplation and that negative Nancy sort of headspace, the conversation always has to go back to self-love at that point. Of like, talk to me about your beliefs, talk to me about how much you value yourself, talk to me why you're worth it and why you don't feel you're worth it to make this change.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so powerful. Like,
Right.
I'm definitely gonna clip that as a real.
You're right.
I'm like, I'm definitely clipping that because that was super helpful. I love that I genuinely, if you look, everything comes back to love. Like, that's typically the thing that's like traumatized the most within us when we're dealing with um anything like wounds, and it all just kind of comes from love. And then, like, you taught me that, that there's some like, um, I know you speak a lot about love imprints, and
Yes.
what I would like for maybe you to kind of share that a little bit, as to so that people can kind of have this thought and idea about it, and then maybe they can explore it on their own or with you. But yeah, if you'll kind of dive into that, I think that would be awesome for them to hear.
Yeah, great. It's a huge topic that I'm super passionate about. The highlights would be that our love imprint, meaning our capacity to both give and receive love, forms very early on, um, in our formative early childhood years, right? So when we're in utero, we're in a perfected environment where we're getting food, touch, and movement round the clock. The moment we're born, those needs being met is totally dependent on the caregiver. Typically the mother, it's mother, father, grandparent, nanny, whomever, right? Research shows that if those needs are met 80% of the time, and they're met with beautiful warmth and contact and connection, right? That there's a capacity for that child to pair bond with their caregiver. Now, if every time the baby is picked up, and instead whatever's happening in the nervous system of the caregiver, if the mother, father, caregiver is overwhelmed, dealing with their own mental health issues, has a substance abuse thing going on, highly anxious, is distracted, has three other kids, on and on and on, that baby gets picked up and there's no pair bonding happening, right? It's just a means to an end. What do you need? Here's the bottle, let me change your diaper, the baby's put back down, and there's not a lot of connection happening. So when that happens, babies have a tendency to go rigid, right? So if the mom's really runs very high anxiety, that anxious energy is the baby's feeling that energetically going into their body. And so babies have a tendency to go really rigid. high tone or they go flat, right? And those are both survival mechanisms early on that form, because those are the only options for a baby that's a meatloaf, right? That has no language yet and so forth. So what's interesting is when I do this receiving work with women, we always have to go back and look at those imprints. And so a lot of the women I work with run high tone, run sort of rigid, high functioning, over functioning, because they learned it was easier to bond with something in their environment, food, touch, or movement, than it was to pair bond with a human. So there's various ways we can look at that, but a lot of women who have struggled with like sugar issues, alcohol, food issues, love hate relationships with those things, right? Porn, gambling, whatever it is, shopping, right? All of those would be classified under food. Like they go to the thing as a means of self-soothing rather than a person or here with themselves. Same thing with touch. So women who are in serial relationships or avoid touch averse, right? They don't like to be touched. Physical intimacy is sort of something that makes them bristle. Those are two ways we see the love imprint play out. And then movement. I live in Boulder, Colorado, a lot of high performing athletes here. So a lot of times people that either fidget physically a lot, there's often energy leaving their body, or they're always like vying for that next win, right? Reaching for the next accolade. Because it's easier to get their needs met there and validation there than it is to slow down and be in relationship with themselves or a loved one and really feel and receive nourishment, right? I'm going to go for the doing then rather than being in this love relationship with myself or somebody else. So that's the briefest sort of description of the love imprint, but it's so important to understand where you land in the spectrum of your love imprint. It informs how you relate to yourself, your relationships, your business, the way you are as a mother, right? All those things. Is that helpful? I know that's a lot of information.
No, that's great. Yeah. I know Abigail is probably sitting there going, do I love Scarlett in a really not
I know.
anxious way? Like I can see her wheel going like this,
Like,
like, interesting. Okay. So pick her up
you're
immediately.
right.
She's ready. Okay. All right.
But how can I not screw my daughter up? Got it. I'm just kidding.
Right.
I actually did. I wanted to backpedal because you said something in the beginning, and selfishly I want to go back because I thought it was super interesting. Um, did you say compassion fatigue? Can
Yes.
you talk about that a little bit? Because I feel like that's more common, and I've never heard that term said that way.
So for any of us that are new mothers, business owners, any kind of industry where you're in a helping profession, where you pour into your clients, your patients, the people that are coming to see you, um, those are all like caring professions. So nursing, personal growth and development spaces, what you guys do, right? You're a new mom. Um, all of those require soft skills, right? So emotional IQ, warmth, empathy, caring, right? Your caring energy. When I was working with clients during COVID and those that were in the healthcare industry and teachers as well, I saw this a lot with my clients that were in those professions because they were having to work differently than they already were maxed out at their capacity, right? In the normal circumstances. And now there was this extra burden of having to figure out how to still perform at that level, but with all these other nuances and changes. And so compassion fatigue is this place where you care, but you should be caring, but stop caring. So you
Hmm.
start kind of falsifying the compassion. That's a very dangerous place to be. I've definitely dipped my toe in and out of that space over the years in doing this work. I'm sure Caitlin, you have as well. Like even as a mom, I had two children, 17 months apart, and I can look back now and I do think I had undiagnosed postpartum depression. I had anxiety, and I there were days where I was like, I don't care. Like I should care about these two creatures, this baby and this toddler, but I can't find it in my being right now to care to the depth which I know I'm capable of. Those are indications, huge red flags that it's time to step back. check in, a real deep, check in with yourself, and being able to admit to yourself that you're in a place where you're depleted, you're overwhelmed, you're burned out. And you do need, that means that there's a deficit of self-love and deficit of receiving at that point.
Do you feel like
Does that
that
answer your
starts?
question?
It does, and I feel like it's something Caitlin and I talk about a lot is like the shame loop. Do you feel like that kind of starts
Mhm.
that for women? Like, okay, I have compassion fatigue and I don't know why, I don't know how to get out of it. Now I'm shameful. And so now I'm going to do X, Y, and it just turns into this nasty like loop. And if you do see that, how do you talk women specifically out of getting out of that?
I love that you're bringing this up, right? Shame says I am a bad person, and that is the moment our personhood and our behavior are linked. Guilt says, oh my gosh, I spilled the milk, not a big deal, I can clean it up, I move on, I forgive myself, right? So that's the difference between guilt and shame. Is guilt, there's a beginning, middle, and an end in that loop, in that cycle. We forgive ourselves, we move on. Shame says, I am a bad person because I spilled that milk. And
Mhm.
so women definitely come to me carrying shame. I think we all do to some degree, just given where we all live and culture we're in right now. And the first thing I always do is to separate the person from the behavior, to acknowledge you're doing your best. Fact. And if we asked any of your friends or your honey, right, they would all agree, oh my gosh, she is such a high level giver. She makes sure everybody's taken care of, right? That's the truth. But you have to look at separating those two. Otherwise, it's a real slippery slope. I am what I do. I am a bad person. Those two cannot be linked. That's where the shame cycle just keeps going and perpetuating itself.
Yeah.
Um, I also wanted, I think you've talked about this before on your page about what I thought was just kind of a beautiful like way of really thinking about how much space we hold for others and how much we give and how compassionate we are is like the river that you talk about um,
Mm.
versus the river banks of kind of how would you one I want you to kind of talk about that, but two, how do we get from being river banks and become like the actual river itself, or is there fluidity to both, like do we have to kind of be both? And could you kind of go into that a little bit?
Yes, I love using that as a metaphor. Most of the women I work with, and I venture to guess that you work with, um, are the river banks, meaning we hold everything for everybody. We manage it very well. And what do the river banks do? They lead the flow of the river, right? So over managing, over holding, and feeling like there's a death grip on those river banks, right? Like if I let go, chaos will ensue, all hell will break loose, right? Like there's no room for that to happen. And so over time, it's like I gently invite women into the possibility that they get to flow and just be the river. The river, if we think about it as a metaphor, it's a constantly moving body of water that is flowing effortlessly. And sometimes it's very tranquil and smooth, and other times it's tumbling over rocks, right? And so the capacity to be able to flow, to let go, to trust what is happening, that it's happening for you, not to you, I think is a part of that analogy. And that at any time you can reach out and grab the banks, but you don't need to only be the river bank and disconnect from your creativity, from your pleasure, from your joy, from your ease, right? So that looks different for every woman that I work with in terms of defining what does it mean for them to allow themselves permission to be like the river more. But I think it's a great question, and it's so important for women to think about what that would feel like if they gave themselves that permission, allowed themselves room to truly feel and come into connection with their essence that they've generally lost sight of in the managing.
I usually like when I saw that post from you, it was like it resonated with me because I say it's spinning plates. Like when you're constantly making sure that everything like okay, making sure that my husband has all of his food ready to go because he's got work tomorrow, making sure the kids have this, making sure like and then making sure that I'm okay, making sure this thing at work, this big meeting presentation, like you're just constantly spinning plates and it
Mm-hmm.
gets to a point where it's too much, you know, and it's
Mm-hmm.
because you're like not having those like check-ins with yourself on am I receiving love? Am I, you know, so it was like I thought a much more like you said beautiful metaphor of like am I just being a riverbank where I am just kind of not connecting with myself at all? And because I think women are like we're truly when we're kind of in our we can say flow, right? Like when we're in our flow, like we are beautiful, we're nurturing, we're like playful, joyful, and you can kind of talk, I guess, about like feminine and masculine energies. I think it's cool for us to hold both. I don't just think we need to constantly be
Yes.
feminine, but like
Yeah.
I do think that we, when we are in a healthy space, that we have a good flow of both. And when we're not, we do typically just stay in like that masculine and we stay in like kind of that you said kind of a rigid place, which is the banks of the river. And I just thought like that is such a beautiful semblance of like what it should feel like for us. And I try to teach that to my clients. Like it should be fluidity. Like that's what it should be. And I think you taught me that too. Like we would use the infinity sign. Like it should always just kind of feel like this, like a constant give and receive and not just like one heavy on the other. And I thought that that was really cool.
Yeah, there's three ways I talk with women about energy in life, and to invite them to pay attention to it. When life feels like it's coming at you, or you're coming at life, right? That's just like boxing gloves on. That's one way that we can receive life and engage with life is handling it, like roll up our sleeves, come at it hard and fast, right? Another energy is to go around. So life comes in, but we go around it. We avoid, we sort of deflect, we defer for tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. We avoid, there's avoidance energy, right? And the ideal is that we come along with life. So at, around, and with. And with life means I'm going to meet this moment with presence to the best of my ability. I'm going to be heart connected, but also recognize I'm fierce and strong, right? That's sort of the balance. And so you can watch for when life starts feeling like it's coming at you or you're coming at life, an overly masculine or overly rigid or overly functioning. Again, red flag. If you notice you're avoiding things and starting to feel flat or collapsed, dismissive of yourself, dismissive of your own feelings, or feeling dismissed by a partner, a coworker, your best friend, whomever, also red flag, right? So there's these things we can watch for that'll be tip offs in terms of self love, self care, nurturing that are super important. Also, I want to just mention parts work. So there are parts of us that make up the whole. And so for a lot of the women I work with, they can identify as the overachiever or the gatekeeper, right? And have lost sight of their inner child or the youngest part of them or the creatrix part that is in that balance that you were mentioning.
That's super cool and very enlightening that there are different parts of us to work on and carry with us and some to leave and
Yes.
like, you know, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, we
I have
have
one
about
question
10
on that
minutes
really quick.
left. Oh, sorry. I was gonna, after your question, Abigail, go ahead and do rapid fire.
Okay, yeah, perfect. I wanted to see, and I don't feel like you probably see it as much, and I feel like we probably don't see it quite as much just with the type of women we work with. But I was curious if you ever see somebody on the other end of the spectrum where you're like, all right, this is a lot of self-love and maybe not a lot of like accountability type of thing. And how do you, if you do see that, how do you, I guess, approach that?
So those are actually people who are also not in relationship with themselves or others. What I mean by that is they have become a self-organizing system right? That they are the center of their universe in terms of this appears as if it's self-love, but there's no action that follow, outward action
Right.
that builds something externally for those women. So in my language, we would call that like a bypassing, right? So whether that's a spiritual bypassing or a self-love bypassing, but it's almost as if, you know, they're waiting to have somebody show up and create opportunities for them, or waiting for somebody to take over and do the work for them, because it's like, I'm
Mhm.
good over here. Like, I don't know,
Right.
like I just feel I'm connected. And so it's actually a non-relational state.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
Yeah. I
yeah,
don't know if
it
that makes any
absolutely makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah. So for women like that, I have a tendency to invite them into contact, right, with themselves, with me, but they need to practice relating and relationship, right, to other people, to what does it feel like to do hard work, to like what's the capacity there to show up and to engage with something, and can they tolerate more distress. Usually these are women who are stress avoidant, right? Like they give up very quickly or go through that start stop cycle. And so we're going to look at expanding their window of tolerance for discomfort, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super
I love that
interesting.
topic so much.
Me too.
Expanding,
Yes.
just I love that. Anyway, Abigail, proceed with quick fire or rapid fire.
Okay, perfect. So you can take it however you want. You can explain your answer, or you can just answer and we'll move on to the next one. Totally up to you. But the first one is just a couple fill in the blanks. So self-love is not what?
Self-love is not um, overspending on your credit card for things that you can do or buy for yourself, and you're still left feeling empty and depleted.
Okay, call me out.
It's a
Okay.
step in the right direction. It's halfway there, right? It's one option. It's one option. But again, that's about receiving, right?
Right.
That's about one's
Of
capacity
course.
to receive. I can receive that new handbag, or I can receive that. I get body work once a month. Like I protect that fiercely. But yeah, like, is there a deeper level of receiving that's available?
That's awesome. Okay. Next one, another fill in the blank. The biggest boundary people avoid is what?
Giving their time and energy away without being intentional.
That's good. That's really good. Okay. The next one is the easiest sign that someone respects themselves or loves themselves.
Honestly, I think it's a vibe. I do vibe checks with people, and I think there's a sparkle in somebody's eye, and I feel that they're in their body, and they are both strong back, open heart, Brene Brown style, right? But there's an availability, but also an energy that says, I have boundaries.
Facts.
Which is
Yes.
It
super
is a vibe.
funny because Kyle was asking me about my husband Kyle was asking me about someone the other day, and I was explaining to them what I thought, and he was like, "Well, what happened that you think that?" And I was like, "It's just kind of a vibe they give off." And he was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I don't know how to explain it. It's just a vibe."
Yes, it is.
People, we don't have to stay here long, but I think people exude a certain type of energy. Like, and I tell all my girls know this. I'm like, I'm woo woo. I'm like a Christian, but I'm also very woo woo. Like everything is
Yes.
energy. Like, and I think that it is very much an energy. Like that person can change, their energy can change, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of have this like feeling of, yeah, like you said, strong bone, like strong back, but open heart. Like you can kind of
Yes.
see that within someone.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, I have three more. What is one phrase women should stop saying to themselves and one they should start saying to themselves?
Mm. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't want to hear that anymore. Stop apologizing for your damn self. Stop it. And I think women should recognize I am worth it. I am worthy. I'm so worthy of receiving the fill in the blank love I want, prosperity I want and seek, right? The level of creation and creativity. I am worth it. I am
That's
That's
worthy.
good.
a very powerful one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And why do we say sorry so much?
Oh, no.
That's a whole other podcast, guys.
Right? Literally.
I
Okay.
call that's a literal phenomenon. It's called the good girl training or girl upbringing.
It's like that.
Yeah.
There's like a new documentary I just saw that's like Keep Sweet and something from like
Mhm.
that is, yeah. Okay. Anyway, um, personal one. If you could only pick one to do the rest of your life, would it be read, journal, or meditate?
Hmm. Gosh. Uh I would probably pick read just because I love learning. Like I am a student of life and I gain so much information and wisdom when I can take it into my body. Yeah.
That's probably what I would pick too.
That's a tough one.
I know.
Yeah, that's tough because I enjoy all three of those very much.
Right. What would you pick, Caitlin?
I don't read. No, I'm just kidding. uh, I don't know. I think maybe meditate, but slash prayer. Like I like
Mhm.
both
Yeah.
because I kind of like being able to receive and like be able to download and like either talk things through or list. Like sometimes my best feeling is like when I'm sitting in meditation or I'm like sitting in just like prayer and I'm not praying at all and I'm just like sitting and just letting like God talk to me or like just be like, okay, I just want to hear from you. I don't actually have anything to say. Like, I just want to hear from you. And I think I like kind of being able to like download and be in that relationship. So probably.
That's good. Um,
Mhm.
okay. Oh, sorry, I lied. I have two. The next one is I like these last two, so I'm gonna stick with both of them. What's one thing you want to stop hearing on social media about self-love?
Hmm. Just everything that feels fluffy about it. It feels consumerist based. I have a real hard time with that. I think it's missing the mark completely on what we've talked about today.
Mm-hmm.
So take away the consumerist aspect of self love and self care.
Yeah, that's good.
And then you've got a real conversation. Yeah.
It's like it covers up what you're actually trying to deal with.
Yeah, you got it. And that is our culture to a T in many ways.
Right. Okay, last one, and now I'm curious because of something you said earlier. What is one book you would recommend everybody to read?
Oh my word, you're gonna make me answer that?
Uh-huh.
Oh my
Selfishly.
gosh, my mind's like bing, 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 going in so many directions.
Right.
Um, mm, that's tough. Um, the book that I come back to again and again, it's by Danielle Laporte, and it's about it's I think it's called How to Love Well,
Okay.
like How to Be Loving by Danielle Laporte, because
Okay.
it's easy to read and it's based on, what we're talking about today, but it's always applicable. I think we can all always learn how to love ourselves more, how to love others more. That's always relevant.
That's good. I guess I should have narrowed it down something about what we talked about today to make it easier.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
All right, that's all I got.
Um, yeah, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out to like obviously, when we speak about self-love, it's also like time and energy is a big one. So thank you for taking the time and energy out of your day to be
Yes.
with us and to kind of be to share this with our audience as well. I know we talked about this at the very beginning when we kind of logged on, but you offered maybe a specific, like a code or a percentage
Yeah.
off. Can you talk about that a little bit, and that way our listeners know?
Yes,
Yeah.
you bet. So while I'm based in Colorado, I serve women all over the country and actually other countries. Yes. So I work in person and remote, and I would love to offer your listeners 20% off
Yay.
a refresh session or an intuitive reading with me. Those are both hour-long sessions, and all they have to do is use the code READY at checkout.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Then
That's awesome.
I will. Abigail will, when she uploads the episode, she'll put it in the link, and of course, I'll put it on our social media, and like a
Great.
couple of other reels and stuff like that we talk about. That if they want to,
Yes.
come and work with you, which guys, I'm partial, but will literally change your whole life and identity when you work with her. So,
Thank
again,
you.
thank you so much, Kristen. We very much appreciate your
Wait,
time. You know,
real
I love
quick,
you. And oh,
tell everybody, you gotta tell everybody where they can follow you.
yeah.
Yeah, so on Instagram or Facebook, I'm also launching my YouTube channel soon, finally, because I love to teach. This is a big piece. And then I'm also working on my women's membership group because I really believe in the power of women being together and collective, and that being both a spiritual platform as well as personal growth and development, things like what we talked about here today. But that's where you can find me.
Perfect.
Love.
We'll keep us
Beautiful.
posted on that. Yeah.
Okay. Again,
Thank
thank
you
you.
guys.
We love you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, mwah. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.